Wellness means to really have a very focused mind. I think your mind has a lot to do with your ability to accomplish things. And I really feel that you need to be focused. You have to have a good, positive mental attitude towards things. You have to be vulnerable in situations. You have to really learn how to be the best you can by experiencing circumstances that you're unfamiliar with. Skateboarding really, really taught me what it is to fail to succeed. So that right there showed me that anything that's difficult in my life, I know I'm going to fail, 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 fail. And if I put all the hours into it, eventually I'll succeed at it. I'm a big fan of don't worry about it till it happens. That's pretty much my motto. Worrying isn't going to change what's going to happen tomorrow. Your attitude is a huge thing that will control your destiny and how life affects you.
Welcome to the Collaborative Resource Hub by Wellness Provisions. We're bridging the gap between mental health, wellness, and rock and roll. I'm Amy McBride, owner of Wellness Provisions, the most badass wellness business. Hey, are you feeling a little stuck in life? I offer wellness coaching sessions. Book a session with me if you're seeking to get healthy and ahead. Sessions are available worldwide. And check this out. Wellness Provisions supplies rock and rollers with high-quality supplements. We've simplified your shopping experience and given you a trustworthy place to go where you can essentially shop blindfolded. And did you know all our Collaborative Resource Hub interviews air on YouTube as well as all major podcast platforms? Subscribe to stay in the loop. Go immerse yourself in the full Collaborative Resource Hub experience over on our website. You'll have access to helpful resources that will inspire and educate you. So let's inspire each other. If that guy did it, so can you. Last but not least, my legal disclaimer. Nothing in this interview or the Collaborative Resource Hub substitutes medical advice. Please connect with your GP if you need medical guidance. Steve, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm doing great. Just getting ready for my trip to Tampa, Florida this weekend.
Cool. That will be fun. You trade one beach for another.
Pretty much. I'm not sure if I'm going to hit the beach. We'll be inland.
Oh yeah, Tampa's not on the coast, is it?
No, it's kind of inland towards the Gulf side.
Right.
But yeah, I'll be out there doing some mountain biking, doing art shows, a little bit of skating, and my band Urethane is playing at Tampa Pro this weekend.
Cool. So for someone who doesn't know what your band sounds like, how would you describe Urethane sonically to someone?
I would say early 90s melodic punk.
Cool.
Yeah, we kind of fit in that genre of music.
Awesome. Yeah, so just fun,
melodic, sing along. I've always been a fan of punk rock music, all kinds, fast, slow, hard, soft. But I've always been really attracted to the melodic stuff that you can sing along with, and yeah, and I love playing it. I'm a guitarist, and I've switched back and forth, over the years. My first band I started was in 1982 called The Faction. Mm-hmm. And over the years, I've had different bands where I've switched from bass to guitar, back to bass, back to guitar. And the funny thing about this band, Urethane, is I started in this band as bass, but then I decided to switch to guitar. So.
Oh, really? Why?
Yeah. I just have this soft part of my heart that loves guitar, and I was trying to make it more simple, with a 3-piece. But I feel like the band would benefit more if it had more of a melodic harmonizing with the guitars and just more power with guitar. I just love a good crunchy sound,
yeah,
loud.
Yeah, and so now that's being accomplished.
Yeah, and and the parts where either I do a lead or a singer does the leads, we back it up with rhythms, So.
Cool. Yeah, so it's well-rounded. And speaking of well-rounded, I gave myself a good segue into wellness. So how do you stay well-rounded? What does wellness mean to you?
Well, wellness means to really have a very focused mind. I think your mind has a lot to do with your ability to accomplish things. And I really feel that you need to be focused. You have to have a good, positive mental attitude towards things. You have to be vulnerable in situations. You have to really learn how to be the best you can by experiencing circumstances that you're unfamiliar with. And
Hmm.
so I have this strong thing about fear is one of the major problems in our world that keeps us from doing all the things that we would love to do. But there's a little bit of anxiety, there's a little bit of anxiousness, there's a little bit of fear that keeps us from doing these things. And my whole thing is try to stay on track and try to stay with that positive outlook and not let anxiety or fear come into anything that's in my way of accomplishing a goal or just learning a new trait or
Yeah.
meeting people. And I love the challenge too. The challenge is part of it as well, that excites me about everything in life.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because there's like some, I guess, paraphrase or some kind of quote about everything that you've wanted is on the other side of fear. And then
Yes,
also the idea that like you can either think a lot about what's going to go wrong, or you can think a lot about what could go right?
very true.
Yeah.
Very true. So yeah, it's definitely a mindset. It's definitely the ability to distinguish whether it's the right time to go for it and make that move. So it's always a learning experience,
Mhm.
and everything that I've put my heart into and passion into, I learned a lot with skateboarding. Skateboarding really, really taught me what it is to fail to succeed. So that right there showed me that anything that's difficult in my life, I know I'm going to fail, 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 fail. And if I put all the hours into it, eventually I'll succeed at it. But I know it, everything that I want to do, I know in my mind, this is going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of frustration. It's going to take a lot of focus. It's going to take a lot of having a positive mental attitude. That's what I like to try to teach and show people, that nothing's impossible if it's in your head and you feel like you have the strength to accomplish that.
Yeah, if the drive is there. Have you
Yes.
always had like a positive attitude, or is it something that you've been aware of and made a point to cultivate more as you've gotten older?
Well, obviously it's enhanced and has gotten refined as I gotten older, but I think as a child I always loved challenges. I always looked at something, and maybe that's what kind of separates me from the other person. Is when I look at something, I don't look at it as, wow, I don't think I could ever do that, accomplish that. I look at it as a challenge, looking like, oh, I think maybe I can do that. So I would give it a try. And if I gave it a try enough and felt like, yeah, this is kind of like, this is not going to work. I gotta believe that, or just understand that I'm not capable of doing this or doing. Then I give up. But I put in the work and put in the effort into trying to accomplish everything I set my mind to.
And is it easy for you to have that acceptance, or is it, do you feel super bummed out when there's something that you're like, you know what, this just isn't going to work, whatever it is?
I guess it would depend on your expectations. If you have really, really high expectations of where you're going to be, those disappointments are going to be just as large. So if you have lower expectations of like, oh, then when you don't accomplish that goal, it's not going to be such a big deal.
Hmm.
But there have been times over the years where I've been super excited to learn something and it just didn't go my way. And then just learning to accept that life's not fair and I can't do everything I want.
Yeah.
you know?
It's
So
true.
yeah,
It's
I live in a world that I believe that it's unfair. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Doesn't have to be fair.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It's so simple, but I mean, like, it speaks volumes. It's true though.
Well, it gets me past all the frustrations that a lot of people put on themselves because they want to believe in this facade world of like everything in this world should be fair, and it's
Uh-huh.
not.
Yeah,
It's
and that
not.
everything is attainable, because not everything is attainable either.
It's not. And people obtain things in different scenarios, different situations. And I look at my background and I can be honest and tell you that nothing was handed to me for free. I don't come from a rich family. I don't come from a place that had everything at my doorstep. I worked hard for everything that I've done in my life. And if there was a will, there was a way,
Yeah.
and I willed myself to to accomplish all the things I set forward for myself.
Would you consider yourself like a creative problem solver?
Definitely a problem solver. I love equations when it comes to life. I'm definitely an analytical person. If something doesn't go right, I stew on it and think about what went wrong. And it's a positive thing and it's a negative thing. It works for me, but then when I project that onto other people,
They stop talking to
it,
you?
yeah, well, it comes off really less empathetic, you
Okay.
know, because I'm more of a problem solver. I want to see why this happened rather than it happened, and deal with the emotions of the grief and what the problem. And
Yeah.
I'm more like, and that's where sometimes, as a man, and a man that's based on not so much as emotion, but more like analytical and common sense. Like I focus on that. I don't focus on the emotion part of it too much, because I don't want it to get to me.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty even keel. Like people will talk to me about something super exciting. I don't get all super excited about it. I was like, oh, that's cool. And if someone's saying something super gnarly and depressing, I don't get super sad about it either. So I think that's kind of helped me maintain a solid outlook on life and persevere through problems and adversities
Hmm.
in life. So that helps me. I know not everybody's like that, and I have to approach different people differently, but my attitude in life will come across less empathetic because I'm more about like fixing the problem rather than dealing with the problem like, oh, you know.
Yeah. Well, it is. I mean, it's creating a distance between, what is and then the emotion, because they don't have to always exist together.
But I definitely, as a man, sometimes I wish I was more empathetic, but like I said, I don't want to focus on that. I want to get to the next stage and move past that. So if I was to fall down and get hurt, I would think about what did I do wrong? How did I get hurt? How do I not do that again? Rather than, oh my goodness, my arm's bleeding. What am I going to do next? Oh, am I going to get to the hospital? Oh, is this going to heal in a couple of days? Like, how am I going to work? Like, I don't think about that kind of stuff. It's like, how did I fall?
Yeah. Yeah.
What did I do? Could I have avoided that? Okay. I look at the steps before that. I don't focus on what's happening and like, worry about what's going to happen later. It's more like, how did I get in the situation?
And has your brain always been like that, or is that kind of like
it, it has
evolved?
always been like
Okay.
that. Yeah. I want to focus on being less dramatic and more problem solving.
Yeah. I dig it. Being proactive.
Proactive. Yeah. If
Yeah.
that's less empathetic, proactive.
I endorse it. That's all that matters.
But I work on it,
I mean,
especially with my kids, like my kids, I understand. My kids don't want to hear like, well, if you wouldn't have did this, that's what happened. They want to go like, they want to hear, are you okay? Can I get a Band-Aid? Can I kiss your boo-boo? Like, and I feel like that's what mom is for, that's what, but I definitely should learn that as well, because I think that will complete me as a person.
well, you have
But
awareness around it. I mean, so I think you're probably, I mean, I don't know, but I would assume you're a little bit closer to that than you think, because you are aware that it's something that you're a little deficit in. And so,
well,
awareness is
I've been
a
told
plus.
it many times, so obviously it's there. especially from females. So,
So then what's your action plan? How are you going to get there? What are you going to do?
well, I just know that I have to learn how to talk to the opposite sex in a different way, you know, that's more empathetic and then it's more like emotional. I just made a joke about it the other day. It's just like when you're in a relationship, the whole part of the relationship is learning how to speak to your other half, learning how to speak to them in a way that it's not offensive and it's more productive. And that's pretty much your relationship. You know, it's like
Mhm.
you can enjoy all these things and you can have same interest, but the hardest part for a man is to know how to talk to a woman. It's
Yeah.
really difficult. And and everyone's different. So it's a lifelong lesson every time because you get in a different situation. And it's a bummer in one sense, but then that's what separates men from women, I feel like, is like we react to things differently. And that's what makes it more challenging. Would I wish in a perfect world where I could talk to a woman just like I talk to my buddy? Yeah. Then everything would go smoothly. We get things done and move on to the next thing. But it doesn't work like that, you know? And I know that because of failed marriages and failed relationships. And I know that's part of the problem of the world is we, you know, the whole saying men are for Mars and what women are for Venus or something like
Yeah.
that. It's like it's true. We're just on whole different planets, like, but we're trying to like live on the same planet together and in harmony. You
Mhm.
know, I know men and women they complement each other. Like I have my strengths, women have their strengths, and then I also have my weaknesses, which I would say, you know, the emotional part, and women have their weaknesses. And if we can both recognize that and use those together, then I feel we can be in harmony. But if we're in denial of our weaknesses, you know, then there becomes a problem.
Yeah. And that's a huge part of it is like not, again, like self-awareness and not being open to the fact that it's an area that you could afford to improve. And, but also I think, I mean, women can have trouble communicating, as well. And I guess it really just comes down to like, how much do you respect each other? And,
Yeah.
how much of an effort do you want to make to speak so that the other person, you know, really understands you? Yeah.
Well, I always kind of set a little couple of rules down when I'm in a relationship, and one of them is like, please don't interpret my words. That annoys me
Mm-hmm.
so much. I don't like not even a man or woman. I'm pretty straight up. I don't like the response like, well, it sounded like you were saying this. That's where I feel like communication barrier is. It's like, please don't interpret my words. Please don't interpret my words. If you think it sounded like that, it's not that.
Right.
If I said that, that's what I mean.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't play around. I'm like straightforward. I'm like the straightforward dude. I don't like the tiptoe around what I'm trying to say in a nice way. No, I'm like boom. I've been known to be called like I'm sandpaper, really rough grit, And is that a good trait? No, but it's an honest one.
You know where you stand. Other
Yeah,
people know where they stand with you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's parts where I can work on being, a real finer grit of sandpaper and not so abrasive, but honesty, sometimes people don't want to hear the truth, you know. Honesty really, it's hurtful.
Mm-hmm.
It's hurtful for our prides, it's hurtful for our egos. Until someone's humble enough to hear the truth about something, you can be direct. But
Right.
then people you can't be direct, you have to kind of tiptoe. So you have to like figure out a way that someone can interpret what you're trying to say so they're not getting offended. And that's my whole thing. I just don't like when people interpret my words.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a pet peeve. It's a pet
I'm with
peeve.
you on that. Say that again.
It's a pet peeve of
Uh-huh.
mine.
Yeah. Well, it's like I don't like when people put words in my mouth, like, oh, you're feeling this. I'm like, sorry, when did I ever say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been
So,
guilty of that.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems hypocritical then.
I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect, so I've made mistakes, like I said, the way I speak. So gotta
Yeah.
watch the way you say things. Everyone's different. So yeah, you gotta treat people differently.
Yeah. How do you like balance your stress levels? Cause like that just like what we're just talking about kind of makes me think in my past, I've had anger issues and
Mhm.
so real short fuse. And so I've been learning how to have that, space between thinking and then actual reacting, which also ties into managing stress and all that. So what's your 2 cents on
Mine is I'm a big fan of like, don't worry about it till it happens.
that? Hmm.
That's pretty much my motto. I'm not going to stress on it until it actually happens. So there's no reason to worry about something that hasn't really even happened yet, and you could put yourself in a place where you're having all these thoughts, and there's a biblical scripture that says, don't worry about tomorrow, let tomorrow worry about itself, because worrying isn't going to change what's going to happen tomorrow, you
Right.
know. So that I really heed to that part of wisdom, and and there's been people that I've been around, relationships and friendships, where it's just like, please stop tripping out. It's not, you're worrying about nothing,
Hmm.
it's not, it hasn't even happened yet. Let's worry about it when it happens. Then let's stress out about it and let's try to figure out, but let's move forward and let's see what happens,
Yeah.
so that's how I manage the anxiety of stress is, someone once asked me like, what's your biggest fear? And I had to think about that a lot. And I'm like, you know what? My biggest fear is not overcoming my fears. That's my biggest fear. Not being able to overcome my fears. And I work on those all the time. I put myself in vulnerable situations, embarrassing situations. And then when I come out on the other side, like, wow, that really didn't really matter. It didn't affect me in a negative way. I was able to get through it. Then that teaches me that I'm capable of doing this and I don't have to be afraid of that.
Hmm.
So putting yourself out there in a place where you're going to get laughed at, criticized, judged, it's a hard thing to do, especially if you have a huge ego, you have a lot of pride. Those things don't want to hear any kind of criticism, judgment, those opinions and those views.
Yeah.
So it's hard being in the public eye. So I feel it's really hard for an artist to express themselves. It's hard for a musician to express themselves. Even in skateboarding, I've seen guys that are super good at skateboarding. You put them in an arena where there's everyone's just watching you and all the attention's on you, they get this sense of anxiety. It's like, oh, everyone's looking at me.
It's like
Am
as
I
soon as you turn
performing?
a camera on and you're being recorded, just it's something in your brain.
Yeah. And once you can learn how to get over the fears, like and accomplish that and do it and be like, oh wow, that wasn't so bad. Then you move on to that next level of maturity and also being able to be less stressful and have less anxiety and probably not have to be on any kind of medication, because basically a lot of doctors really just treat anxiety and stress and everything with medication, and I feel that people are a lot stronger than that, a lot
But
stronger. I
they
just believe
are.
in.
They definitely are stronger, but I know too many people, but I mean, whatever works, we've got options because there's something for everybody, but people are also prone to wanting to be comfortable, you
And
know?
that's it. And that's it. And that right there can be a downfall in your personality. It can be a downfall in a professional trait. Um, Life isn't comfortable.
Mm-mm.
And what I've learned is you learn a lot of things and you're able to progress at things being in uncomfortable situations. And if you can put yourself in an uncomfortable situation and follow through with it and power through it, you can learn that, hey, I'm strong enough to handle that, but it's that worry of like, I don't think I'll be able to handle that. I'm not strong enough. Well, then that's a really big disbelief in who you are as a person. And if you were to believe in yourself so much that, you know what, I am strong, I do have the ability, I can be just like that person. I can be just like that person. I feel you can accomplish more. But when you have society, you have family, you have parents, you have your peers telling you, you're never going to be able to do that. You're not good enough. You're not made for that. Those negative thoughts do have an effect on your brain, your heart, your personality, and how you approach things. And so I just try to keep it positive,
Mm-hmm.
with everything and everybody, and lift people up more than be doubtful. I'd rather be more less doubtful and more positive with everything that I have my heart set on.
Yeah. You know, here's an advert in less than 20 seconds. Did you know that Wellness Provisions offers one-on-one wellness sessions? Yep. So if you're seeking to get healthy and ahead in life, but feeling a little stuck, then book a session and let's get you unstuck. Now back to the interview. And I've heard too, and it works to a point, but when there's something that you're going after, don't tell a lot of people, because then you can kind of not open that box to, negative feedback from people that's going to infiltrate your own self-talk. So it's like, do whatever you can without telling everybody, so you don't have to deal with their comments.
Well, sometimes people work differently. Like sometimes, like as far as people like who love challenges, like for me, I love challenges. So sometimes when people are negative and be like, there's no way that you're going to be able to do that. It pumps you up like, oh yeah, well, let me show you.
I call that fuck you fuel.
Yeah. And so I like sometimes I like that, especially like in situations where people like there's just no way you're going to be able to do that. And I like to like prove them wrong. Prove them wrong.
So it sounds like you are very, what do I want to say?
Optimistic.
Optimistic for sure, but like good in the self-confidence department. So if there's so many people lack confidence, if you had to give like a few tips, like practical things maybe someone could try and do, any ideas to improve confidence?
Well, everyone's different. So like their upbringing is different. So how they were raised has a lot to do with where they're at now, so I can't change their past.
Mm-hmm.
I can only give them advice of like, just look at it this way. Just look at it this way. Have a different perspective of how maybe unlearn what you've been taught. If it's affecting you in a negative way, then maybe unlearn that somehow. Maybe talk to people about it, like expose the things that have brought you down. Like be open about things that are hurtful, things that have had a strong effect on the way you look at life, the way it's made you anxious,
Mm-hmm.
that's made you fearful, and talk your way through it. Where did it come from? And is it true? That's the main thing, is like, do you really need to believe that's what you've been taught, like is true? So where's the source coming from? So this person that's been telling you your whole life that you'll never be able to do this, do that, what have they accomplished?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So normally a person that's accomplished much will basically lift people up and say, hey, you can do that too.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the people you want to take advice from, the ones that have proven themselves. But don't take advice of people that never experienced these things, because how do they know?
Right.
And you can't always learn something from a book.
Right.
You have to live it. So I feel like wisdom and experience is way more powerful than knowledge, so.
I agree with that completely. Yes.
Thanks.
Mic drop.
All right, see ya. Are we done?
So what does eating healthy look like to you?
What's changed over the years? As a kid, it didn't look very, very great. Lots of candy, eat everything, fast food, didn't have a lot of money. So bought the most worst food that you can eat, and processed,
Mm-hmm.
you know, long shelf life lasting food. Um, and that's because I was ignorant towards nutrition. And I feel like the people teaching me about eating were ignorant as well. And ignorant, not meaning being stupid, but just not knowing.
Yeah.
Like, I feel that people really misinterpret that word ignorance. It's just a lack of knowledge. It's not meaning you're dumb or you're stupid.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lack of knowledge. And I'm ignorant to a lot of things, but I have learned a lot more about nutrition and stuff as I gotten older, because I see what it's done to other people,
Mm-hmm.
and I can see that these things that we want and crave are short-term enjoyment, but in the long term, you see the effects of what it does to, and that can include drugs and alcohol as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is where fear needs to come into place. Have a healthy fear of what you're putting in your body and how it's going to treat you later on in life. Because these things that happen in your life happen very slowly over time. And then
Yeah.
you look at yourself and you're like, oh my goodness, how did I get here? Well, it took 10, 15 years to get here. And now you're trying to get rid of it in a month or two. It's going to take a long process to get rid of what you've learned how to live and eat and consume, a long-term thing, unless you have a lot of passion and drive to be like, I want to make a change now today. It can start today. So people don't eat things for certain reasons. I stopped eating meat, steak and pork, and I stopped eating chicken for a while, but I actually added that back into my diet. It was mostly fish and vegetables and fruits. A while back, after I watched the documentary Forks Over Knives,
Okay.
it really taught me heart conditions and obesity and all the things that we eat that turn to fat, the sugary stuff and everything, and got me to stop drinking soft drinks and more healthy juices and water. Um, and and I feel like that's why at my age now, 57, I still look okay, I guess. I mean, if I think about what a 57-year-old would look like when I was 12, I'd be like, oh, you're like a grandpa that just kind of sits on the couch and doesn't do anything. And you're old. I put a post on Instagram the other day, and it's so funny. It's like, it says, it's so weird being the same age as old people, because I feel like that. I'm like, I'm 57, but I have a mind of a 20-year-old,
Yeah.
and I think I've felt like I've not abused substances, like alcohol and drugs. And I've been pretty healthy in my eating and kept my weight down. And I feel great, so I can, at my age, I can accomplish a lot more than most 57-year-olds can do these
Yeah.
days.
Well, it's funny too, because I mean, I just turned 37, but
Uh-huh.
as I've gotten older, because everyone's, relationship to age changes as you age. And I was talking to someone the other day, and their parent was like early 70s. And I'm like, they're like, they're getting old. I'm like, that's not old. Like, because it seems like, I mean, like, that's how old like my mom is, and she's
Yeah.
does yoga and walks 3 miles a
That's
day. So it's
awesome.
like, it's just funny how as we get older, old just keeps getting farther
Getting older.
away. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's kind of my drive too, is to let people know that you have a whole life ahead of you, and you can accomplish so much more in your older years if you just watch what you eat, watch what you drink, and just watch what you watch and listen to and hear, and you can live a healthy lifestyle, all around, you
Yeah.
know.
It's
Um,
what you consume, through your mouth and your eyes and
uh,
ears.
10 years, yeah. There's definitely a lot to consume in all areas in life. So, if you're cautious of that and you watch that intake, then I feel like your life will be prolonged, and you'll live more abundantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a weird question. How do you deal with aches and pains, with skateboarding and age, as you're getting older, as you're cleaning up your diet, eliminating more sugar and that kind of stuff, like what helps you? What works?
Hot tub helps, relaxing in there, and obviously massages. I would say it has helped. And also just like being active all the time.
Yeah.
That helps as well, and eating properly and being very hydrated.
Mm-hmm.
I think those. I want to stay away from the vitamins and the pills as much as I can, and just get this natural, health remedies, and be out in the sun,
Yeah.
and get the vitamin D from the actual sun, not from a pill,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah. I mean, and that's like, I remind people too, supplements, because I mean, that's part of my business is I sell supplements, but that's what they are. They're supplementing what you're not getting in your diet. So as much as you can obtain, from real life, then hell yeah.
Yeah, but definitely what you consume, I think it'll age you less if you just consume the right things.
Mm-hmm. What is like your metric for success, or metrics, plural?
For success. Well, success is measured in so many ways, and so many people have a different view of what success is. You
Mm-hmm.
know, people. I just was talking to a friend of mine, and she was like, "I was in two long, successful relationships before we broke up," and I go, "Well, if you broke up, then that relationship wasn't very successful, was it?" You know, so go
Unless
figure.
she learned, what not to do in the next one. Therefore, that could be a success.
It could have been. It would have been a success if she learned certain things about herself that she needs changing, or learn stuff about her mates that she doesn't want part of that in part of her life.
Right.
Because it's toxic.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the way I measure success is having an idea come to life.
Okay.
Have a thought and an idea come to life, and once it comes to life, you've successfully accomplished what you set your heart on. But it doesn't really always have to be about money, a
Mm-hmm.
monetary thing to be successful. Because you're rich doesn't mean you're successful. It just means you learned a way to make money. But you can be successful in so many other ways, and it's still a success. Like just saying, like, one day I want to start, I want to start a yoga company, a yoga firm, and then you get to the point where you have a building, and you do the yoga and the classes, and then all of a sudden, it fails. Like not there's something happening with the rent, or not people know about it, or not, the word doesn't get out, so you just can't make it. So it closes. Doesn't mean you weren't successful. It just means like you had an idea, what you accomplished it, and it came to flourish. You know.
Yeah. And, that just makes me think how some things kind of ties into the quote that you're going to end up using later. But some things that we expect or want to happen, they don't always happen. But then there's other cool doors that end up opening up.
And that is a great. I have that analogy as well. If one door closes, it opens another, and sometimes things are a blessing in disguise. So,
Yeah.
like, you may go through a heartbreak or a breakup, or you may lose your job here. That it's not the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
That door closed, but then that door closes because something better came along. So I'm always optimistic in that way. It's like, okay, well, this didn't work out. Hopefully, something better will come, and sometimes, usually, it does. So I'm not that adamant of like focusing on all my failures, but more of like, what did I learn in this situation that I could bring into this next situation and grow from it? And I'm more about just growing, and
Yeah.
learning, versus like focusing on everything that I failed at. So going back to what I said about skateboarding, is Skateboarding is difficult. It's like one of the most hardest activities that I've ever set myself and put my abilities into. And it's not easy. And you have to practice and practice and fail until you learn certain sequences and body movements and balance until you get it right. And it doesn't happen overnight. So there's a lot of falls. You get hurt. There's times where you could get injured and then you got to go back to it again. So as a child, learning how to skateboard and becoming really good at it, it taught me like you have to fail to succeed. And that's how I treat that's my personality. Is like wherever I've set my mind to, I know I'm going to fail and make mistakes, but then I learn from those mistakes and then I move forward. The way I like to learn now is if I want to get into like a profession or something, I go to the professional and ask them, what mistakes did you make? Because I want to learn from what you learned. I want to get to this place quicker than you did because I want to bypass all the mistakes you made because I don't want to make the same mistakes you did.
Right.
So how can I get to this place faster? Well, I'll learn from a pro who's lived it and have the wisdom and then learn from that. And then when I go to attack this and put the effort into, I'm like, okay, well, that didn't work for that person. So I'm not going to go here. And I think you can bypass a lot of heartache and frustration if you just listen to others and learn from their own mistakes. That's better wisdom than having to go through it.
Yeah.
You don't always have to go through it.
And that plays into ego too, like putting your own, like, I can do, whatever, like listen to someone else. Yeah.
We're a product of our environment, and we are who we surround ourselves around. So if you want to be a positive person, surround yourself with positive people. If you want to be a downer and doubtful person, then hang out with those type of people because that you'll definitely fit in.
It's all choices.
Yes, I believe so. I believe it's all choice, and I'm a big fan, and people will disagree with me, and that's okay. But I'm a big fan I don't believe in natural talent. I believe that everyone works hard at everything they want to do, and nothing comes easy. And I always feel like people use the word natural talent to project that on themselves. Like, I will never be able to do that because that person's naturally talented, or I will never be as good as that person because they're more naturally talented than me. But that's okay. You don't always have to be better or as good as that person, as long as you're trying and be the best that you can. It's like, well, no one's ever going to be like, Magic Johnson, and that's okay. He's just naturally talented, or Michael Jordan. He was just a naturally talented. No, not naturally talented. He worked his butt off to get where he was, and there may never be a Magic Johnson or Michael Jordan, and then that's fine. That's what makes them them. Right. You're you. Be you. Yeah. Don't be them. Or be better. Try to be better than them. One up them. Try to think differently than them. Just be you. Just don't worry about the person next to you. And be happy with that outcome. And I feel like you'll get through life a lot better. But when you start comparisons really bring frustrations and disappointment. So stop comparing yourself to the next person next to you and just be yourself.
It's self-limiting beliefs, and it's making choices and decisions out of fear instead of love.
Yeah.
It's
definitely, life's difficult. It's not easy, and people make it more difficult than it has to be.
I think it's like in much of our DNA to do that. How do you stay organized and focused with all the different projects and things you do?
Oh my goodness. My phone.
Okay.
My cell phone with my notes, and just, don't get sidetracked. I know there's people that say they have this thing called ADHD where they can't focus on one thing because they get sidetracked with it. And that's a normal thing. It's like, it's very easy to get sidetracked, but it's a choice. I always feel it's a choice. Like if you're washing the dishes and then you get sidetracked because a phone call is coming along, like, are you going to take the phone call or are you going to finish the dishes? That's a choice. Or you're gonna call it, well, I just got ADHD, you know, I can't focus. I'm like, you can focus, where's your priority in your focus?
Yes.
Okay? Where's your priority? You chose to answer the phone call because you couldn't wait to hear who was on the other line. You didn't want to finish your job, you know, that's a priority issue. That's not like, attention deficit or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's self-inflicted.
Yeah, I feel it is. I feel like life's a choice, and you can choose to react one way or you can choose to react another way, but at least you have a choice. Some people don't have choice, and that's just the way it is. But the majority of people do have choices and can make them, and it's how you react that makes a huge difference. And I always feel it's your attitude. Your attitude is a huge thing that will control your destiny and how life affects you.
Mm-hmm. And then own your choices. Once you've made it, own it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
especially if it was a bad one, own it. All right, if you had to have like a full day to yourself that could be like, a self-care day, what would it consist of?
I'd wake up and have a cup of coffee, make some avocado toast, maybe do some yoga, go skate, come home, play some music, maybe go out and ride some dirt bikes, come home again, maybe paint, go out, maybe do some lunch in between that, go out to dinner with a friend, and go home and sit home and watch a nice movie with a glass of wine, and then fall asleep.
That sounds awesome. And a lot to fit in one day.
Yeah, it can be done though.
Have you done a day like that before?
I think I've done close to that.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, it's just priorities and wanting to know how much time, spending the time doing these things. And but some things don't happen as quick as you want. I could say like I want to do all that stuff, and then I go skating, and then like I spend hours and hours trying to do a trick that I really want to do. So then I focus just on that, and then I forgot about all the other things I wanted to do. So that was a choice of mine. It's not an ADHD thing where I can't focus. It's like I choose to like let these things suffer or fail, or not be finished because I made a choice to put more effort into this. So
Yeah.
I would just if you want to plan a day, it can go as planned as if you follow the plan.
Right.
You have to follow the plan. There's a schedule to everything, and I really feel like promptness is a really good trait of selflessness. It's like be on time for people because it's not all about you. When you're meeting someone, it's about us. So you need to really be diligent of the time you set for yourself, because you have another person waiting that maybe they don't understand where. Like for me, it's like, did you try to get there on time, or did something really, really happen that made you couldn't be on that time?
Mm-hmm.
So people always come up with a lot of excuses of not being prompt, and I feel like that's just being lazy and selfish, because you're not worried about the other people you're supposed to meet, because time is valuable for everybody. It's clicking.
Yeah.
As we speak now, where the time's going, and we're not going to get that back, so that's the one thing that you can spend that you'll never get back is time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's valuable. It's more valuable than money, time is.
Yes, absolutely. What's a quote you like a lot?
I like a quote from Bruce Lee that he says, be like water, my friend. And the meaning of that quote, what I've learned, is to just flow, and how water can be very fluid. And when you pour water in a cup, it becomes a cup. When you pour water into a glass, it becomes a glass. So be formless, and be able to learn to adapt to be in any situation. he had said something like water can crash and it can be stagnant if it's stuck in a place, but let it keep flowing like a stream. And water is I would have to say is the essence of life. We need it.
Mhm.
So definitely, if you want to be healthy, drink lots of water that's not toxic.
Yeah.
We put a lot of toxics in our bodies, and then later on suffer from it. Um, but suffering is part of how we learn. you know
Mhm.
um I learned from a pastor one time once said to me, you know the definition of patience is? And I said, what's that? He's like, it's long suffering. And a lot of people don't have a lot of patience because they don't feel like suffering, so they get upset. And if you can learn to suffer for a long time, it'll teach you how to be patient. So
That's good. I think I'm gonna think on that when we're done with this, because I can apply that. Again, I'm still working on my patience and anger, and that's
mhm.
interesting. I like that perspective.
Yeah, you just got to learn how to, you got to learn to, it's not like you're enjoying the suffering, but it's powering through it and being able to endure it.
Hmm.
That's the word, endurance. And anyone who has great endurance can deal with a lot of suffering and pain. And like I said, that's the part of learning. We have to go through that. And even with like skateboarding hurts, you know, and there's a lot of suffering that goes on because you have to be patient on learning something because it takes time. And if you don't have the patience to endure that, then you won't be good at it, and you'll give up, you
Yeah.
know. And depends on your personality. People give up really quick, and some people don't give up at all, you
Hmm.
know. And you know, everyone's different, and that's what's great about this world is we're all created individually to become unequal. We're all equal to become unequal. You know,
Yeah.
so
So the tagline for my business is delay dying.
hmm
So I like to ask people, I have come now to love the answers that I get with this question. So if
mm.
you had to give someone, tips or advice on how to delay dying, or in other words, live happier and healthier, what would you say?
Well, my first question is why are you trying to delay death?
Well, I guess to enjoy life, to be present, it's sort of like, what's your interpretation of it? But to to enjoy life and to be healthy.
Yeah, but so then see, okay, well, I'm going to tell you, I'm a spiritual person.
Okay.
So I look at life differently than a non-spiritual person.
Okay.
So I believe that there's life after death, and some people don't. So if that's the case, if you don't believe that there's life after death, and then that this world is all we have, then you're going to want to try to delay dying.
Yeah.
So and I guess this is where I promote a new movie I'm in.
Oh yeah. Okay. Let's hear it.
It's called A Case for Heaven, and it's basically a writer, a Chicago writer, presenting his case on heaven and hell, whether it's real or it's not real.
Okay.
And then I have a testimony in there as well. So it's a great segue to your question because, like I said, people look at life differently.
Yeah.
So for me to answer that question, I don't know if it really matters whether I'm trying to delay my death or not. But I do understand and believe that this life is great, and but I also believe that there's something else after that. So that's what makes me enjoy this life even more, that I'm not afraid to die.
Cool. I
So
mean, you're the only one that's answered it that way, and that is also equal. I mean, it's equally
how,
true.
how many Christians have you asked that question?
Actually, there's been a few that I've spoken to that have, that I know that they're, they go to church and they're read the Bible and Christian and
Yeah.
stuff. But I guess also like for me, from the health standpoint, it's like the thing that comes to my head is delayed dying, in the sense that like, do you want to end up with like diabetes and like not being able to like move very well?
Mm.
But your response to it is the same. I mean, it still stands even in that case. So
Yeah. So, it really comes to like, to be honest too, it's like if I die a fully, completely fit man, or I die with a heart attack because I had diabetes, I'm still dead. You know what I mean?
very true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you still, you
It's
live
like
the life, and yeah.
it's like, am I going to die with a bunch of money, or am I going to die poor? You're still dead. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how much money you die with. You ain't taking it with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I guess you could look at life that way, But the question is, do you want a short life that's fulfilled, and you have a great understanding of it, and it's abundant and you enjoyed it? Or do you want a long life that was terrible? It was the worst thing that you've ever experienced, but you lived to 90, but you had the worst experience. Well, I mean, what do you want from that? And you're super unhealthy, and you didn't get to accomplish much because of the way you lived and the way you thought. So what life's better? The short life that you had a great time where you're here, or a miserable life of 95 years of like torture and torment? And what would you rather have? Would you rather have 90 years of torment, depression, anxiety, or would you like have 10 years of like the greatest life ever?
That one, for sure.
Yeah. So who made out? The one with the 90 years, or the one with the 10 years?
The one who delayed dying by like, embracing a positive attitude and not living in fear. That one.
Okay. Okay. So it's not really the amount of years. This is what
Yeah.
I believe. It's not the amount of years you live, it's how you live those years.
Yeah. It's the
That, that
value. Mm-hmm.
that's what's more important to me. It's not how long I live, even though I would still love to enjoy all the great things in this world. Some people want to get out of it really quick because there's no great things in this world for them because of their mindset, the way they've been brought up. They want to leave, and that's where suicide comes in.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole another topic, and that's a whole another way of looking at yourself, looking at life, and what's important. And I feel bad for the people who commit suicide because they just don't have a great understanding on who they are
Mm-hmm.
and their self-worth, you know? But me as a spiritual person, God has shown me who I am and what I'm capable of. And that's why he brings me love, joy, and happiness.
Yeah. And you choose to embrace that. So
Yes.
yes.
I embrace that wisdom and that way of thinking. And I wish that upon everyone.
Cool.
Yeah.
So thank you for that answer, by the way. I like it. It's good. Do you have anything cool coming up or coming out this summer, yourself or your band? Anything you want to touch on?
Yeah, I'm in a new band called Urethane. We got a bunch of shows. We're traveling to Europe this summer. We're going to go to Germany and Austria, Belgium. I'm going to Florida twice with the band. We'll be playing around here in California a lot, and also just going to be skating. I have an event, a motorcycle event happening with a vert ramp called Born Free that happens in a couple months. And and just trying to spend time with my kids and enjoy them at the same time, outside of what I do as a profession, and just keep growing, keep learning, keep unlearning the bad traits that I grew up with, and just have a positive, optimistic outlook on life, and just enjoy it while I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for making time to chat and sharing all of your wisdoms that you've picked up and lived through, and your experiences. And It's been so cool. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Amy. I appreciate you listening.
Yeah.